Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So today's video is about learning a foreign language without going abroad. And it's a big question because many people actually think that you always have to go abroad to make sure that you really become fluent and really sort of immerse yourself in the language and the culture to really learn it properly. But that's not the case. I personally learned English and French without ever going to an English or French speaking country. I learned them from my home country, both to an advanced level, and I think it's perfectly possible to do that. So today I'm going to share with you some tips on how you can learn a foreign language without ever going abroad. So the first thing to say is that most of your learning will be about learning vocabulary. So a language is basically made up of words, which means that the more words you know, the more fluent you become because you know how to express more ideas and more thoughts more accurately. So the majority of the learning that you're doing can actually be done from anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in a specific country to learn vocabulary. You can do it literally from your bedroom. Then the next thing is that you will be learning a lot about how those words that you learn work in context. So that's basically about seeing them in written language and seeing them in speech. So let's talk about reading first because that's a very important aspect of learning a language. You need to be doing a lot of reading. And there is a lot of reading material available to learners of all languages pretty much. I mean, some languages are better catered for than others, but as a general rule, there's a lot of reading material that you can find, especially if you're a more advanced learner. So if you're just starting out, you're a beginner, you will be able to find some simplified texts online. You can also look at children's books, children's stories, or short stories, which will have less complicated vocabulary. And you can start there. You can start looking at examples of sentences in dictionaries as well when you're learning vocabulary. If you're more advanced, you can also move on to like real things. So for example, news stories, magazine articles, novels, blogs, anything that is out there online to read in the language you're learning. So those things, again, you can do from any country in the world. I think in the past, obviously before the internet came about, it would have been very difficult to do that. But at the moment, you can really pretend that you're in another country. You just look up a news website in the language you're learning and you can do some reading straight from there. Okay, so you want to be able to see those words in written language, but also in speech. So there's obviously YouTube, which you can access for free, but there's also Netflix, Amazon, and other things that you can use for learning a language as well. I'm going to make separate videos about that. But for now, I'm just going to say that, when you put subtitles on in YouTube videos, there's a lot you can learn, actually. You can see how things are pronounced. You can learn about intonation. You can learn about accent. You can learn about pronunciation. So I definitely encourage you to start with YouTube, and if you're a kind of intermediate or higher learner, you can find a lot of stuff. Just, Google the best YouTubers in French or the best YouTubers in Spanish, and you will be able to find channels that you're interested in that you can watch and use as your listening practice. Okay, so the next one is about surrounding yourself with the language you're learning. So many people who say that you have to go abroad to learn a foreign language say that it's all about immersion and all about surrounding yourself with the language. But you can actually do that even without going abroad. So the first kind of most obvious example of that is changing your settings in your phone. So for example, using Facebook in a foreign language or using Google in a foreign language whenever you Google something. But also replacing all the different activities that you do in your native language on a daily basis with the foreign language you're learning. So for example, if you're looking up a recipe for dinner, you can do that in your target language and use that as an opportunity to learn. And basically you can create almost an environment where you're just doing things in the foreign language. Okay, so the next one is speaking, which is obviously the most challenging part when you're learning a language without going abroad. But there are certain things you can do if you want to practice speaking without leaving your country. So even if you've got nobody to talk to, there's certain things you can do. For example, you can go about your day and you can talk about what you're doing. You can describe your actions just to practice, describing things and also using different tenses. just go about your day and pretend that you're vlogging and you're telling people what you're doing. You can also pretend that you're giving an interview, that you're someone famous and you're talking about your day or your life. Or you can do things like pretending that you're presenting a news program or a cooking show when you're making dinner. That's another opportunity to use the language you're learning in speech. You can also choose a topic and prepare a short presentation. You can record yourself and watch it, and then perhaps try to identify some of the mistakes that you made or areas where you want to improve. So the main reason why people bring up travel when they talk about language learning is that you can talk to native speakers, obviously, when you go abroad. And depending on where you live, there might not be access to native speakers of the language you're learning. So when I was learning French in Poland, I didn't know any French speakers, so there was no way for me to actually speak to native speakers in my hometown. But there's lots of different places online these days where you can do that. You can arrange a language exchange, for example, which is basically where you're teaching your language to somebody else who will then be teaching you their language in return. You can also book lessons with professional teachers through things like italki. You can join Facebook groups. There's lots of Facebook groups where you can find conversation partners. Look up some meetups, either in person or online, where you can meet people who are learning the same language as you. So many people think that you have to kind of go straight into speaking with native speakers, but actually speaking with people who are non-native speakers can be less overwhelming. I personally always found that it was less overwhelming to speak with somebody who is not a native speaker because I thought they wouldn't correct my mistakes. They also spoke more slowly, and when you're a beginner, you find it hard to understand native speakers because they speak quickly and you're not used to the way it sounds. So it can actually be beneficial to speak to people who are maybe from your country but are learning the same foreign language as you. So try that, see how it goes. If it doesn't work for you, you can always go online and arrange a language exchange for free with another language learner from another country. So I hope you enjoyed these tips. So I definitely encourage you to learn foreign languages, even if you're not sure whether you will be able to travel there. It's perfectly possible, and like I said, I learned both English and French without ever going to an English or French-speaking country before. So I hope you enjoyed these tips, and I'll see you next time. Bye!